Hey, I've been doing a whole lot of work outside in my yard for the last couple of weeks. And outside my house, like I pressure washed my deck, and I've been doing a lot of the raking and cleaning up stuff from the last 2 years, leaves, sticks, etc. And I've really neglected the outdoors portion of my house for the last couple of years, and other than just mowing, essentially, and trying to chop up that tree that fell just a little bit at a time. But doing all that stuff outside my house really made it very obvious to me that I needed to talk about sensory issues with heat. And since the Northern Hemisphere seems to be going through a heat wave right now, it seemed like a good idea at the time. So I have, as an autistic person, I have lots of sensory issues. And some of those sensory issues have to do with heat and humidity, and it can really lead to a lot of discomfort and sensory overload pretty quickly. Seems like the sensory overload happens with a lot of temperature related stuff, because in the winter time it happens to me. It seems to be aggravated by the bundling up and the layers of clothes and feeling constricted and claustrophobic in my own clothes during the winter time, and going from cold to hot, cold weather to warm building. And in the summertime, it's the exact opposite problem, going from hot, humid outdoors to a cold building, and also wearing clothes that, if I'm walking from my car to my office, getting sweaty, or if I'm working outside, getting sweaty, and then going inside where it's cool. And so you have like hot, wet clothes that suddenly turn cold and wet. There's sensory issues involved with that. So yeah, I've always had struggles with sensory issues related to temperature and humidity. And as far as like thermoregulation of my body, it seems like, as far as I can remember, like even when I was a kid, I've had night sweats as long as I can remember. Like my temperature just spikes at night, it seems. And also a couple of my former partners mentioned to me that I was like sleeping with a radiator, because my body just radiates heat at night. And it causes a lot of issues for me with sleep. I have to have a very particular sleep environment to sleep well, because I can't stand my own skin coming into contact with my own skin. And I definitely, it's caused, some hurt feelings before too. I don't like someone touching me while I'm trying to sleep. Like your hand is 5,000 degrees. It just it feels like sometimes just being touched, that conductivity is something that is very uncomfortable for me. So, temperature is just one of those things that, like, I guess we typically think of lights and sound and scratchy tags on clothing, immediately when we think sensory issues, but temperature and humidity can play such a role in discomfort. Whenever I moved back to the South from Montana, I is pretty arid in Montana, in the area where I lived. And I remember moving back down south, and I took a shower, and I thought, yuck, I still feel dirty. It must be some soft water or something weird going on with the water. So after about a week, I finally asked someone, what is up with the water here? I never feel clean after a shower. And they said, there's nothing wrong with the water. It's just, it's not soft water. It's just water. And it took me a little while to realize that it was the humidity that I never even felt clean. I don't think I felt clean the entire time that I've lived back down south until, except going out west on trips and, using the camper shower in the desert. It's a pretty pleasant experience. It feels really clean. But, so just that humidity, that sticky, dirty feeling. And during the summers, sometimes I'll take 2 showers a day because I just can't stand that feeling of being all gross and wet and sweaty and sticky and yuck. It's gross. And I don't really know ways to accommodate for that. You can, in the wintertime, you can always put on more clothes, but in the summertime, you can only take off so many clothes in public, that is, and even in private, it's like I feel sticky and dirty, and I don't want to sit on any surfaces or touch anything. I just want to levitate. I don't want my skin coming in contact with anything during the summertime. I just want to, levitate, or in like starfish pose, or the Da Vinci Man pose. I just can't stand the way it feels. It's really uncomfortable. And so dressing for the weather it becomes a struggle. And so whenever, I've always pushed the boundaries with dress codes, because I think unless there is an actual safety issue, a safety related reason why you need to wear certain things, like, OSHA compliance and, closed-toed shoes and things like that. If you're just sitting at a desk in an office, dress codes are so arbitrary to me. It's as long as you have, the appropriate parts covered and all of that. It just seems like they come up with some really dumb rules for dress codes for businesses. And that can really cause some sensory discomfort. So that's one of the things that I've discussed with my boss about, accommodations, is just being able to wear like loose fitting, softer fabrics and stuff to work, just a more relaxed dress code, which I was kind of doing anyway. I just, have it in writing now that that's something that I need. But it gets just really uncomfortable because of female undergarments. Bras are so awful. It's like, if you get the ones with all the bells and whistles, it's like walking around wearing a dirty, wet sponge. They're so gross. They're so gross. And if you wear a sports bra, it's an okay alternative for some people. But, since it just blows people's minds that mammals have nipples, they don't always really accomplish the goal of appropriate coverage according to, business dress code standards. So it becomes just a pain in the butt. It's really inconvenient having boobs in the summertime. So you guys are lucky that you don't have to worry about that. But I was thinking about the dress codes for men whenever I was working in the garage with my boyfriend this weekend, and he was complaining about being hot. And I'm in there wearing just a loose t-shirt and some leggings and flip-flops, and which the flip-flops are probably not the most ideal footwear for what we were doing. You know, dropping a wrench on your toe is gonna hurt, but it's either that or overheat. So I usually just have to think about how risky the job is. Like for outdoor, when I'm working in the yard, if I'm running the weed eater or mowing, I will wear closed-toed shoes. And whenever, you know, I'm doing anything, we're using any kind of equipment or in a situation where I might drop something heavy on my foot, I'll wear closed-toed shoes. But my hands, feet, and head are where my heat escapes and therefore is retained from. So in the wintertime, I need those parts covered. But in the summertime, if I'm wearing closed-toed shoes or you know, shoes and socks, it gets so hot. I start overheating really fast if my feet can't breathe. So my boyfriend was talking about being hot, and I noticed that he's wearing a t-shirt and jeans, socks and shoes. And so I tell him, you know, you'd probably be less hot if you just go throw on some shorts and some flip-flops, you know, which apparently you didn't want to do. But I've noticed that a lot of guys just wear jeans and socks and shoes, closed-toed shoes, year-round. And I don't know how you guys do it without completely roasting. And, you know, if you're sitting around in your jeans and your socks and your shoes thinking, man, I'm really hot, and complaining about it, the only logical piece of advice I have for you is if you are in a situation where this is possible, take off your socks and shoes. Obviously your feet are going to be the place where your heat escapes from. So let that heat escape your feet. Hey, that rhymed. Throw on some shorts if you can. And if you're one of those guys that wears a hat year round, you know, taking off that hat might really help with the heat issue. And, you know, whatever reason you're wearing your hat, it's not a good enough reason to die of heat stroke. Unless you're in construction and you're wearing a hard hat and you're like, well, death by heat stroke or by, you know, head injury, then anyway, and I understand that in some industries, it's just not possible to go and take off your shoes and socks if you're hot. But if you're at a desk, why not? I do. I don't know if anyone has noticed, though, because my desk is enclosed. So it's definitely something to consider, though, if you're really, truly bothered by sensory issues due to overheating. But yeah, as far as weather appropriate clothing, I guess it should be, you know, accommodations of some kind should be made when people, when autistic people have sensory issues due to heat and overheating due to, you know, thermoregulation issues. So anyway, yeah, I just had to make a choice this week over whether I wanted to protect my feet and hands, getting a blister one out over wearing gloves. I thought, oh, I just can't stand to have I needed my toes covered from, using the weed eater. And I was kind of in weed eating / raking, kind of going back and forth. So it was either just put on gloves, pull off gloves, put on gloves, pull off gloves, go inside, cool off, or just leave off the gloves. So I figured I would just leave them off, and that blister can eventually turn into a callus, and then I won't have to worry about it. But it gets so freaking uncomfortable and miserable, and at least when I'm home, I can take a break and come inside and cool off. Oh, another thing that I thought about, maybe as autistic people, we struggle with interoception, and that might lead to overheating because we may not be aware of what's going on in our body. And if our body is overheating and we're hyper focused on something like cleaning up our yard, then we may not be getting the signal that the overheating is happening. So it can cause some issues. Maybe that's part of it, because I know that whenever I was working outside, I was just so into what I was doing. I didn't think about being thirsty. I didn't think about needing to stay hydrated on the first couple of days. So I neglected that. And then when I got in and into the cool air and felt dizzy, and I thought, hey, I haven't drank any water in the last 2 hours. So I tried to make a conscious effort after that while I was working outside to keep the water handy. But yeah, my body hadn't even told me, hey, we're thirsty, need some hydration here, maybe some electrolytes, since we're sweating out all of our salt. But yeah, sometimes I struggle with the whole interoception thing, not knowing what's going on with my body. So until it's in, emergency mode. So maybe there's that to consider when it comes to thermoregulation. Sensory issues make themselves apparent really fast. It's like, oh, I'm hot and sweaty and my clothes are sticking to me, and my feet need to breathe, and I have to keep my hair up when I'm working outside, because the feeling of my hair sticking to the sweaty parts, it's so gross. Summer is gross. And I love to, camp and hike, but I can't do that in the summer when it's, unless we have a rare cool day where it's below 85 degrees. I think that's about my cutoff point. I think for safety reasons, it probably should be a lot of people's cutoff point. But I just really struggle when it's summertime and I want to go do things outdoors, because it seems like that's the time when a lot of people want to do things outside, and it's just miserable for me. I've been camping in the wintertime when it was really cold, and that was, an unpleasant experience. And I was in Montana. It was a long, long time ago, before I even knew about the whole vascular issue thing. It got down to -2 degrees one night when I was camping in the Sapphire Range, and you had to just get back into the vehicle and go home. It was way too cold to be camping. And then I've camped out in really warm temperatures, and that was every bit as miserable as camping out in -2 degree weather. I guess it was easier for me to stick it out. But yeah, when it was like 100 degrees during the day and it cooled down at night. So I wasn't setting up camp during the 100-degree part. I was setting up camp during the evening when it was, it had dropped back down, but still just it's really, really difficult to sleep when it's hot. And so it was kind of a miserable experience. So summertime blues, can't go camping or hiking for most of the time. I have to wait for those nice days when it's really having a cool spell. But anyway, just struggle with those kinds of things. And I'm really envious of everyone in the Southern Hemisphere right now. But, fall will be here soon enough, I guess. I'm not trying to rush my life by just to get to the next season. And I'll stick a little video on the end here of me cleaning up, or showing you what I've been cleaning up around my house. And I've been doing this by myself, so if it looks like it shouldn't be taking nearly as long as a couple of hours in the evening, 5 days a week, it's just taken me a while because I'm just one person, and I do have to take breaks and regulate. So anyway, I hope everybody's staying cool, and I'll just talk to you later, I guess. So there's some construction going on across the lake. I apologize if the noise gets to be bad. It's really echoey. So this is my deck. I pressure washed the deck and the rails. It has stormed since then, so it might need a quick go over again. The only one side of my house is painted. Also, the other 3 sides need a new paint job. So there's that. And there's an old piece of lawn furniture and an old firewood holder on my deck, along with some broken pots and stuff that still need to be disposed of, as well as that old grill that was my ex-husband's. I have here's another shot. And so I have this rock patio area that was covered in leaves, and I still have a little pile in the middle, and this little side yard here it was all covered in leaves because I haven't raked it in the last few years, and I'm gonna have to get down in here and weed eat. It is kind of hard weed eating my yard because of the rocks. It's like weed eating while standing on marbles, which I don't recommend. And I still need to repair an area of the fence that goes under the deck and around to the other side yard. And then there's a whole lot of other stuff to do. And stuff like this is what I could really use help with. But I don't like asking for help. I feel like I'm being a burden to people when I ask for help. And that is my yard that I mow with a push mower, an electric push mower that is not self-propelled, and it's a hillside. You can't really tell so much about the slope right now. Sorry if I'm all over the place with this phone camera, but there's that. And then this little dead tree fell in my side yard, and I'm gonna need someone to come and cut that. I'm not able to push it out of the way, but I raked and weed-eated all of that. It was a 2-day job, 2 days at about 2 hours each day. And the mowing is a constant thing because it has rained a whole lot lately. So, yeah, it rains and the grass grows, and then you have to wait until the grass is dry to mow it. So it's a pain in the butt. But I actually kind of enjoy doing this kind of thing. So, it's like, you know, it's a good kind of suffering. Anyway, that's what I've been working on.